Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusa.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Welcome to yet another edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Show, the Free Your Mind lecture sessions. We are powered by Fairway Hotel, Spy Uganda, and Detective UG. And we are seated here at Fairway Gardens. We're just having a casual brainstorm about the recently concluded the NAM and G27 summit or conference in Uganda, where President Museveni now has taken over the mantle for the next 3 years. Actually, President Museveni is going to be the leader not only for Uganda as a president, but he's going to be the leader of 121 countries as chairman. And so that is interesting. As you people in Uganda think Museveni is edging out, the rest of the world actually is saying, no, my man, you have just started. So if you have been opposing his power and you see that,
you must be tired.
A man you have been seeing that he's edging out. The rest of the world is saying, no, 121 countries. Yes. I say, no, Museveni, you can be our chair. You can be our leader for the next 3 years, not one man. Yes. So they sat here and they made some interesting resolutions, and we want to break down what it means, each one of them, these resolutions, point by point, what they mean. We, the heads of state and government, gathered at the 19th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Non-Aligned Movement, held in Kampala, Republic of Uganda, on 19th to 20th January 2024, under the theme Deepening Cooperation for Shared Global Affluence, reviewed progress made in implementation of the outcomes of the 18th Summit of the Movement, held in Baku, Republic of Azerbaijan, on 25th to 26th October 2019, and considered new and emerging challenges and issues of concern to NAM member states and the broader international community. Number one, guided by the principles and objectives of the non-aligned movement, articulated in Bandung 1955 and Belgrade 1961, as well as the Declaration on the Purposes and Principles of the Role of the Non-Aligned Movement in the present international juncture, adopted at the 14th NAM Summit in Havana, Cuba on 16th September 2006. Reiterating the commitment of all states to defend, preserve, and promote the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and the principles of international law, reaffirming the movement's strong desire and commitment of upholding the principles of sovereignty and sovereign equality of states, territorial integrity, mutual respect, non-intervention, and non-interference in the internal affairs of other states, and the peaceful settlement of disputes, and call for states to refrain from any acts of infringement on the sovereignty of other states. Now, in brief, they sat here and made certain resolutions, and one of them, especially President Museveni, emphasized that the Western world influence trying to teach other people how to live, forcing your lifestyle on other people, that must stop. That is President Museveni, and you know he speaks with a strong language. Sometimes he calls it rubbish. That's rubbish. And you know he speaks this, I think, in respect to the fact that recently America even removed Uganda from AGOA and has been castigating the recent law that was enacted that concerned LGBTQ in Africa. But they also made a resolution on the ongoing conflict between Sudan and South Sudan. That's why I want to begin without, I don't want to be the debater here. Let me begin with Kashaya. What do you make of the recent declarations in Kampala?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having me.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Ugandans,
Why?
the people of Uganda and the president of the Republic of Uganda, hosting more than 256 countries. I think it's a big plus. If you compare NAM conference and the G77 countries,
You're joining them together.
It can make
Because
around
the other ones are
100,
121.
and the other one also.
The other ones, so you're joining them together.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a big plus. Though the West did not show up in terms of media coverage and what, but Ugandans were very happy to be the host. Now, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the resolutions of NAM, actually, NAM, you can call it, is now becoming like Pan-African movement. Actually, these are our allies. Because when they say they are promoting unity, if they say they are against imperialism, if they say they are against colonialism, and they are promoting sovereignty and
of each member
and
state.
territorial integrity of each country, sovereign states, and they are there for the well-being of people,
Of humanity.
Yes. Then really,
That is Pan-Africanism.
that's Pan-African.
So they are speaking
Yes,
through us.
these
53 African
Yes,
states here. So
yes.
it's
So
definitely
we are speaking
Pan-African.
through them.
So NAM is purely
Pan-African organization.
Pan-African organization,
Movement.
and some of us who are Pan-Africanists by nature and by conviction, we are very happy for this. Any other Pan-Africanist in the whole world, I think, is happy for this summit. Was happy for this summit. Now, there are many issues that they discussed and were very, very pertinent, especially the conflict in the Middle East, the conflict in Africa,
Sudan,
Congo,
DRC,
DRC.
Somalia.
Yes. Of all the international conferences we have ever had, we have never had an international conference like this one discussing African affairs. So to us, really, this was a big plus to Africa.
Actually, such issues are normally discussed at the UN General Assembly.
Yes.
But they're now they're being discussed.
Even at the
very
Security
ably.
Council.
Very able, and even taking decisions, giving guidance, giving a roadmap
Yes.
by the non-aligned movement at G77.
Yes.
So don't you think that they are taking away the job of UN security?
And
entire international media was in Kampala.
Everyone is coming those days. Even
But
the Chinese.
Mutatina, I want to come to you.
Hey.
How my eyes, just like his Kasaya's eyes were on Guterres.
Hey.
My eyes also were focusing on some of the international media,
Yes.
especially from the north.
Yes.
They didn't seem to give the power, the meaning, the feeling.
You know
That-
what? You know when they say your silence is really loud.
Yes.
That's exactly how we can describe like how the international media community have handled it. Because you can see a big difference between media, the usual media of the global north, those that we follow, and if they say, oh, this meeting is important, this meeting is important, the entire world is looking, right? That's what they think, at least. The BBC, the CNN, the France 24, the Al Jazeera, all those guys. Now when you look at media from the global south, Brazilian media, Zimbabwean media, Ugandan media, Chinese media, like they all covering the summit. But when it comes to the non-aligned movement
Giving
and
what they call 360
G77,
coverage.
they pretend they don't see. And what is interesting here is that I think it shows you the silence is really loud. The silence is really loud. What is it showing you? It's showing you that they are scared. They are scared because at the center of those conferences is one common point with all those countries. They want sovereignty. Sovereignty is really clear. President Museveni said it like first page, like the second sentence of his speech. Sovereignty and sovereign nations. Loud and clear. Sovereignty and sovereign equal nation you haven't had. And so what we see is that it's a clear criticism of the United Nations as it works today. Because there is nothing as equality right now.
So,
The
Mr.
security
Pina,
council-
you're not comfortable
He's
with the
looking
way the international media from the
Covered-
north especially
covered
covered
the
the...
conflict.
Listen, me, I'm looking different directions. I like to listen to Arabs media when there's something happening in Israel, or to listen to Algerian media if something is happening in France.
CNN.
You know, you want to compare who is talking about what. They stay really quiet. All of them actually questions, or what is this debate? Or is it still legitimate or not? That's what they like to say. But when BRICS are coming in the table and say we don't want dollar anymore, they start to fear. When the non-aligned movements are coming together and say, no, we want sovereignty and we are going to reform the political institutions, right? That was last week with the NAM. Now the G77, it came this week and he said, wait. We want to reform the political institution, the UN and all those things, but as well the IMF and the World Bank. Because if we don't reform the economic institutions, we're just gonna swipe ends. Someone else is gonna take it, but at the end of the day, the same like structure is going to remain. We want to change that structure. That's what they call for. And that's why the Vice President of China himself was here to deliver the message. And a lot of people follow that message and say, no, sovereignty comes with politics and economics. If you have only political sovereignty, you end up like South Africa. Your people are poor, but you can go and do big things around the world. But your people are poor and suffering, right? You want economic sovereignty and political sovereignty. So in this big debate, I think it was really clear that NAM and G77 and country of the global south are claiming something strong. And it's interesting for me to see that the global north is not paying too much attention because they don't want to. Their silence is loud, right? What the summit is saying goes against their interest. And they want a reform of UN that they control and that they lead. The French, the Switzerland, the Germany, the Japan, like they are well placed in the current system. They don't really want strong reforms. So they want to be part of the reform system. But the rest of the world say, no, we gave you a chance. We gave you a chance. It's been 70 years now. Look at how many conflicts. How can we explain that the law, the international law, is not implemented the same way in Ukraine and Russia or in Palestine? Oh, does that make sense? That makes no sense. So if you guys say you're doing the job, just show us what you do. Because right now there's imbalance between the type of
Double
conflict.
standards.
If something is happening in Congo, man, no one really cares. No international resolution. Nothing is implemented properly. Nothing is implemented properly, right? But if something is happening in Gaza, Ukraine, like there's different talk happening. Especially when it comes to commissions. That we send like commissions to look at the crime of Russia. And I'm against every crime. If Russian soldiers do a crime, I want the world to speak about it. But also, where are the crimes of the NATO? Where are the crime? Where are the other crimes? Where are the investigation for Congo, for Sudan? And where is it that in Gaza right now, if you're not a journalist backed up by Israel itself, you won't have access to those information, you won't know what's happening, right? Even South Africa in the international justice system struggle to find evidence because Israel is blocking every way to collect evidence, right? So we are tired of this dual system. We are tired of the global north controlling international institutions and calling it international when they really their ways, their tools to control the people of the global south, control the world and impose their policy. Just to finish, President Museveni said it clear, we do not want, the movement is against imposed ideology. We don't want narrow, unideological orientation. That's what he said. That's what he said. And I think it's really clear. That's really clear. That says that the IMF and the World Bank going only one direction, which is always the same direction, that favor the same type of people. They're never the real people. That we are done with. That we are done. Comrade.
Actually, I want to add on what you are saying. I think NAM was sending a message to the world that the colonial organizations like CHOGM and the Commonwealth are no longer relevant.
Hey, that's not relevant.
Yes, they are no longer CHOGM.
They used to be
Because-
in 60, maybe
because
70.
you see, what are we benefiting from Commonwealth?
Clear.
Running a colonial secretariat to control the
Your former
colonies.
former colony.
colonies.
Wait for Kenya to leave the Commonwealth. You will hear about the Mao.
Actually,
Maybe
actually,
an insurrection.
you
Yes,
know,
will tell you.
what this means? Eh? Every Commonwealth member state pays money
To run the
to
secretariat.
Britain. Yeah.
To run the,
Yeah.
yes, I know. I know.
This is the system.
Yes.
This is the pipeline through which they pay.
I think
The very same
that
that
you
he's
have
not,
to
he's
pay.
not going to pay the African Union fee, but he's going to pay the Commonwealth.
I think to me this summit was really very, very pertinent because they are sending a message that there are certain things that are phasing out.
Yeah, definitely.
There are certain
Yeah,
things
that's
that are
clear.
expiring.
Yeah, it expired.
The
That's a good word.
moment NAM creates secretariat and the resolutions become biting resolutions politically, economically, because you see, the moment NAM members
Mm.
ignore these colonial financial institutions, which
Especially the UN
which
setup.
the imperials now are using
They're using to push their policies.
yes, to finish us.
Correct.
Because you learned recently when our president said, I was told that even the World Bank cannot finance some projects that are transformative, but they are giving dates for importation
I know when it comes
of
to
their
debt,
goods.
there's no condition. There's no condition to
yes,
have debt.
yes.
But
So to me, Mr. Speaker, this is very, very big, and I think you look at these countries really, they are making a very big percentage to the globe, and if you have one voice from all these other member states, I'm telling you, the North is now going to collapse.
really,
It's likely to collapse.
we spoke about that.
Because
Has that been their mission?
yes, because people are tired of wars. People have been really creating wars, unnecessary wars. People want to speak and do their own things.
Mr. Mtatina, you are conflicting with his submission. He's
No.
saying the North is going to collapse. And
As soon as
and-
Africa blocked the road of capitalism and extraction, the North is collapsing. I've said that before. It is clear to me. You can even simply stop and block the canal of Suez, and already you're going to have result. And that's where I want this conversation also to go. Like I say, dialogue is important. Messages are clear. Those messages are loud and clear. Everyone, I've said it in Zimbabwe, in China, in Uganda, in Brazil. Like everyone is saying this is really clear. Now, are they going to listen? And what if they don't listen? And I think that's where like we need to also think of a not a backup plan, but a kind of a doing things sideways. We tell them we want sovereignty, we want economic sovereignty, we want those reforms. And in parallel, we are doing without them. We are organizing ourselves without them. If there's a war between Ukraine and Russia, we don't go to the UN to vote the resolution. We vote the resolution in the African Union. What does Africa say about this war? We don't go to the UN that is controlled and backed up by powers that have no interest in the future of the continent. So it is quite clear to me that this question of sovereignty has to be the focal point, but we also have to implement it ourselves. We should not ask for permission. What I'm saying is we should not ask for permission because they won't give us granted the permission.
IGAD committed the commitment. IGAD recalled the commitment of the parties to the conflict for a face-to-face meeting with 14 days and called upon the parties to meet within 2 weeks. They're talking about Sudan. They stressed also that IGAD member states will utilize all means and capabilities to ensure the conflict in the Sudan is resolved peacefully, and directed the IGAD Secretariat to provide an update to the Assembly. They also directed the IGAD Secretariat, in coordination with the African Union Commission, to revise the roadmap for the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of Sudan that was adopted at the 14th Ordinary Session of the IGAD states. The America and its cousins have been manipulating and managing Africa through sponsorship of conflicts. Does this now, this NAM and G77 resolution, doesn't it contravene the aspirations of the Western world in keeping Africa
in wars.
Shaya.
You see, one of the biggest projects I think US and Europe has ever had is to fund conflict. It's the biggest project, heavily funded, because you know, the moment Africa becomes stable, then there will be no war. Now, what Pan-Africanism is doing here, the Pan-African Pyramid and the NAM Summit, they actually are awakening Africans. They are saying, you guys, do you know who is fueling conflict? You know, it's like when you have your children and the child of your neighbor comes and says, this brother of yours is the one who is wrong.
I do that.
Now times comes and the father says, I'm the father and these children are mine, and therefore get away from the neighbor who doesn't know how we live here. So I think IGAD is right. Decolonization of African minds is going to start with African institutions like IGAD to ignore these projects that are being funded by. I think this is what is very, very important. The rebel groups should understand that they are fighting a proxy war which is funded by the West. The moment these people get to realize that, Africa will have no more war.
I think it's important also we speak of those weapons, because there's no traceability of weapons right now. We don't know where they come from, who used them. It is really key that we develop a system. If the weapons come to this continent, we need to figure out where is it going and who finance it, right? Because that's the key question. Right now, we speak of IGAD having 14 days to try to sort out the conflict. There's two things I want to say about that. The first thing is I'm happy that this meeting is happening in Kampala, because a few months ago, those talks were happening in Qatar, Doha. And Qatar, Doha has a lot of money, but this is still outside of the continent. The continent needs to sort this type of issue. I'm not Sudanese. I don't know as much about Sudan as my father here. But what I can tell you is that what's for sure is that right now the West is producing more and more weapons. The global North is the main seller of weapons. France, Russia, the US, they produce a lot of weapons that they sell all around the world. And what they do right now is that they are trying to produce more and more and more weapons. The NATO alliance countries
Selling to Africa.
as we speak, they haven't even sell it yet, but they need to sell it to the people's mind that a war is coming, so we need to produce more weapons. But at the end of the day, those weapons are not here to protect the French or the Germans or the Americans of invasion. They are here to be sold to foreign country and foreign land. So the conflict happened there, far away from where they produce the actual weapons and the politics that create all those conflicts, right? So it is a big hypocrisy that the NATO countries are saying that Russia is going to invade all Europe, so we need to produce more and more weapons, so we block them. But do you know how many kids have a Russian woman? 1.2. So Russia is in a demographic decline. There's less and less Russians as we speak. How can a country big like this, that have a demographic that reduces, is going to be imperialist of Western Europe or of other countries? No, there won't be any form of invasions, any form of like economic invasion like was back in the day. But they use that argument to produce more weapons.
Becoming weaker?
Russia is becoming weaker demographically talking. It is clear. Every specialist knows that Russia as a power is booming right now. But Russia demographically talking, so the amount of Russian in Russia, that's in decline. That's in decline. So the capacity for Russians to raise a strong army to invade the West is not there. The capacity of China to create that strong army and invade the world is also not there, because Chinese don't do that. Europeans have been doing this. We have created weapons and invaded the whole world because of that weapon superiority. So now we think that other power will do the same. But that's to forget that the initial violence was there, and that other people won't have the same type of policy. Especially when you think of the Chinese. The Chinese have 2,000 years of public policy of containment. They came here in Africa first. You know that, right? We know that they came in Kenya before the Europeans even set a foot in Kenya. Did they colonize Kenya? No. Because that's not the type of politics they produce. They already have a lot to deal with 1.5 billion people, 1.4 billion people. So to get back to the weapon questions, if we don't have international institutions such as NAM controlling those weapon producers, those guys can create more and more weapons and sell them for
And
cheaper
create
to
more
more and
wars.
more people, more wars, more conflict, more proxies, more stories. Create a scandal in the scandal, so you forget the original scandal. You see what I mean? We need to set control. Ugandans, as a people, need to make sure that when France or Russia or the USA make more weapons, we know where they're going to. When UAE is buying so much weapons from the French, for instance, I look at those contracts, right? It is not for UAE itself. It's for resale to other places, other conflicts, especially in Sudan. The Sudan right now are under UAE weapons. There's a lot of weapons from UAE that goes to Sudan. We don't know. We're not so clear about the why and the how. I don't know. I don't have the answers. But what I know is who they kill. They don't kill UAE people. They don't kill French or Russians or American people. So we need a state control. We need to have, in the reform of those institutions, in the end of the UN and the beginning of the NAM, of the G77, in those institutions, they need to set control of who have the right to buy weapons, who don't have the right to buy weapons, and more importantly, who have the right to manufacture weapons. Because otherwise you create a bourgeoisie, a class of people, the bourgeoisie.
Hey.
Their interest
Yes.
is to get richer and richer based on selling more and more weapons. And they will tell you, no, but it's the African that shoot. But it's you that prepare the weapons, that sell it to him, and that give him and deliver him and tell him his neighbor is full of shit. So what is it that you're actually saying? You see what I mean?
you.
We need full control.
Thank you. Now, Comrade Kashaya,
Yes.
President Museveni, in his speech, he showed that what the world needs, especially the 4.4 billion population now that is under his administration as the chairman
Yes.
of NAM for the next 3 years, is to find out what do you sell to me and what do I sell to you as a market. In other words, Museveni is looking at the 4.4 billion people in their 121 countries as a market, and that market they must practice give and take. You know, it's not that you, Kashai, should continue benefiting from me, Irumba, when I am not benefiting from you. So it must be mutual respect, mutual trade. Sell to me what you have, I sell to you what I have. This is contrary to the Western world or American style. American style is that you, Africa, give me your raw materials indirectly, then I will sell back to you finished product exorbitantly. I want you to have a comment on that. What do you think that means going forward?
Yes.
Well, if Museveni can reverse this trend of where America wants to take the world
Yes.
by turning Africa into a dumping site and correct the mindset of the Africans plus the rest of the NAM and G77 members into a market whereby everybody will be at equal level of trading with each other. I don't think that is what America wants. That
No, no.
Africa should be at the same level with the rest of the world. And therefore, I simply ask, what do you have, Mr. Mtatina? I have G-nuts. Oh, you have G-nuts. How much do you sell them to me? We agree on the price. Not you dictating the price. Like now, America is dictating on the price of coffee.
And the
When
money to use.
actually the producers of coffee, the people who grow coffee, are not Americans. So after growing your coffee, America comes on the table and says, I am going to give you this price. And you have no way to refuse. But then when they are selling back to you that promised processed coffee, again they are the ones who determine the price. They are the ones who determine the price at which they should buy from you and processed coffee, and they are the ones who determine the price at which they should sell to you
The
the
machine.
finished coffee.
Even the machine to do the
Mr.
coffee.
James Kashaya, I listen to you.
Tell us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to congratulate President Yoweri Museveni, who is now leading a population of over 4 billion people.
4.4 billion to be exact.
Is leading the leaders.
Yes, leading the leaders. So really, it's a very big plus. Mr. Speaker, this is a huge task and a huge opportunity. And if
Is it not a challenge? It's a task and an opportunity.
yes,
But there also could be some challenges.
yes, but for us who think positively,
You look at the
look at the tasks ahead
and the
and the opportunities.
You exploit the
Yes,
opportunity.
yes. Now, if I was President Museveni right now,
Eh.
I would create a secretariat.
Mm.
I would create a secretariat.
Mm.
Because you see, you are going to run these countries for 3 years.
Mm.
And you cannot run these things without secretariat.
Mm.
Ugandans should appoint some young or experienced Ugandans, have a secretariat to run these huge tasks. Now, Mr. Speaker, if I was a Ugandan right now, this is the time would be
You're
thinking
saying
about
if you were Ugandan, you're
Where are
Ugandan.
you? No, he's a
In
Pan African.
First of all these countries we should have flight. The Uganda Airlines should open flight to all these destinations. That's one. Two, the Uganda Export Promotion Board should realize with the member states to have free visa. Have free visa. All-
Visa free.
Visa free
for
Yeah.
non-members.
in those 3 years.
Yeah.
Those 3 years. So that we can have free trade.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you look at this very big market, that's why I said task in terms of people exploiting these opportunities. Opportunities because we are the ones now at the helm of the world. Now, of course, America is not happy. It's not
Are
happy.
you sure you asked them? Or you
Of
have
course,
seen them by action?
recently, they removed us from AGOA.
Ago.
AGOA was not
They're not happy about
was
you.
not even a quarter of this population.
Eh.
Now
Yeah,
we have a
5%.
big market
Mm.
that is bigger than AGOA.
In 121 countries.
Yes. So you can see, of course, it's not happy, but I think it
But
will-
should we be working to make America happy?
not at all. That's where we go wrong, and that's why I was telling you the resolutions that NAM made, especially here in Kampala. It was sending signal to America that all what you have been doing is no longer accounting.
Does
You
not
know,
make
does
sense
not
anymore.
anymore.
Mm.
Make it
And
precise.
by the way, if they are not careful, the American empire might collapse very soon.
Really clear.
The
American
moment-
empire.
The moment these members,
Mutatina,
Yes.
you like seeing American
Yes,
empire
very-
collapse.
it is.
Very
When
soon.
they speak that word, you.
It is
because you see, when IMF becomes irrelevant,
World Bank,
World Bank becomes relevant,
the dollar,
the United Nations becomes relevant,
the US dollar.
the dollar, the United States dollar,
Mm.
because even some reforms, even in World Trade Organization, those reforms will have to change and make an alliance with those ones that pro us. Those who are against us will not be with us. So strategically, I think we need to have a strategic secretariat that can trap this huge task and also
And implement them.
implement them. And the only thing we can do this, I think, is to work with some experienced business guys and companies. Like for instance, I was told we have the capacity to create like a financial institution which is similar like a World Bank.
Why not Gaddafi? Why was Gaddafi killed? was Gaddafi? Gaddafi was trying to create the World Bank of
Not
Africa.
just trying, doing it.
Bank of
but we
Africa.
are
Central
both.
Bank of Africa,
Eh,
billions of tons of gold with it.
He was trying to create what you see like World Bank and IMF. This one was specifically for Africa.
Gaddafi did
Uganda,
not-
do you want to borrow some money?
Gaddafi-
You come to African
Gaddafi
bank
did-
and
Gaddafi-
not any other bank.
Gaddafi did not consult these other member states. If
He
Gaddafi,
did, but I
He
think
didn't
they
ask for
are-
permission
they
at
were-
least. He didn't ask for
if you
permission.
had waited for everybody
the
to
member
get
states I'm talking about is this now. I'm not talking about African Union
Mm.
because by then
It's even
African Union
larger. Yeah.
were still weak, even leadership problems. Some people were weak, were even weak
Yeah, I
militarily.
think we are weak now, eh? But that's another
Not
debate.
quite.
European Union is sending a lot of money to
By the way,
African Union.
Africa has produced now very strong leaders.
No, that's true.
Ever.
That is true. And the next generation is
Ever.
also
when
really,
you
really
see,
good.
when you see all these countries trusting President Museveni to chair for 3 years. By the way, the 3 years will expire when we have even finished the elections.
2026.
2027, I think that's when it is ending. So I think they are seeing.
So,
positive things
so
in
you're
him.
saying automatically President Museveni has already won the 2016
They are like
election.
wishing him to continue.
He has already won the election.
He has already won. Actually, if he
This
can
one
do
is
that-
for you guys to decide. It's for you guys
Anyway,
to
But
decide.
Atina there will
Yeah, I'm not invited. It's good.
So I think the people of Africa should appreciate this.
Yes.
For all those years we have suffered colonialism, slave trade, conflicts. I think this is the time now to trap this opportunity and say now, those who were against us, let us put a hold, and then work with those who are with
You don't
us.
agree with me, it's okay.
It's okay, but
But you also have a right to live.
I have
the
a
way I
friend
want
here.
to live.
I have a friend here whom I want to work with.
Yeah.
You can hold.
Yeah.
I think that's the way forward.
If I can add something to that great point,
Yes,
because
yes.
this proposal is
Please.
really interesting. No visa, I heard no visa,
Mm.
right? Full-on economic collaboration when it comes to trade. I
Right.
want to add one thing. No more dollars exchange during those trade. Because when you open those lines, when you use dollars, the problem is Americans are weaponizing the dollars. So when you use dollars now, you can go to court in the US. The American judge can say, what did you do in this trade? Did you do it with the norms and the standard of American central bank? And now you can be put in jail or have a big tax to pay or be provided from doing any more business in dollars. So I say, let's do like the BRICS did and say we need to de-dollarize. The members, great. We do all what you propose. That's a really great proposal. And we even add those trading, we do it in Ugandan shillings. We're doing it in yuan. We do it in Cuban pesos. We're doing in the money that will strengthen the states and their sovereignty. Because when we use dollars, we also weaken our own sovereignty. We like to get dollars from selling the coffee. That is true. But at the end of the day, it's only because even when we buy something from China or from Indonesia, we have to use dollars. If there were agreement for Indonesia and Uganda to use their own money to exchange their goods, it would be much better. And it will strengthen economically the NAM movement.
Okay, now I want to switch gears to a different topic. I will start with you, Comrade Lisafri. You've been following this.
Yes.
Somaliland.
Now we're
and
gonna fight.
Somaliland and Somalia. Ethiopia is the first country, I think, in the world that is trying to recognize Somaliland as an independent state.
Yes.
And by so, they have gone as far as signing memorandum of understanding
Yes.
on the access to the sea.
Yes.
How does that, when you look at international relations,
Yes.
country to country,
Yes.
and diplomatically, does that serve well between Somalia, the original country, and Ethiopia? Won't that create conflict?
We have to bring back.
And is it
history.
a good thing to do anywhere at this time?
We have to bring back history here. It's not the first conflict between Ethiopia and Somalia. Actually, when you look at Ethiopian development, Ethiopian growth, you see that Somalia arrived in Ethiopian history, a long history, that are way longer than Western Europe or Middle East. There's a long civilization in Ethiopia. When you look at the history, you realize that
Ethiopia is the only country in the world that was never colonized.
in Africa,
Yeah,
in Africa,
in Africa.
When you look at the history, there's one moment where things start to go wrong. Is when foreign powers, European powers, at the colonial time, try to surround Ethiopia. Because Ethiopia doesn't give up. Ethiopia has that pride and that capacity to fight back the colonizers, the settlers. And so what they decide to do is to circle Ethiopia with some states that will prevent them access to the natural land, which is the sea. Ethiopians have sold many products and refined many like great objects and sell them to the world for a long time. You have like things that have been crafted by Ethiopians in Chinese museum, which means what? They used to have access to the sea. They used to be able to craft things from themselves and sell them to the world and be in communication and in trade with the world. Then the colonialists came, and they sold the north of Somalia to Italia, and then the west to the England, and Somaliland also to the English, and the French took Djibouti, and all of this happened right in the same time. It landlocked Ethiopia, and now we have one of the strong and major African power, more than 100 million people, one of the most populated land in Africa, that cannot have access to the sea, and that need to negotiate with states that are small like Djibouti, small and fake. Small and fake.
Don't use the word fake.
The history of Ethiopia goes way deeper than the history of Djibouti or Somalia. The Queen of Sheba itself is in the Bible, right? It's in the Old Testament. So that's how long. Even in the Quran, they speak of the Ethiopian Empire. Do they say, oh, but they don't have access to harbor? No, of course they used to have access to harbor. The problem is that division, right? So now we are in a situation where Ethiopia only two choices. If they want to continue to grow, which obviously they need because of 100 million people are looking to hit that side, they need to have access to some harbors, to some land that have the sea, right? And where can they find that? Eritrea, that's impossible because they were at war with them 20 years ago, so it's not going to work. Djibouti is full of foreign military base, which would not be a great space to be independent and sovereign. We can all agree on that. So then the only remaining is Somalia.
Somaliland.
And Somalia refused to grant some land, just a strip of land to Ethiopia. And that would bring peace. That would bring peace between the two nations. But one cannot understand why is it that Somalia is acting that way. Yes, we are for sovereignty. Yes, we ask for people to respect sovereignty. But in the same time, we are going to have way bigger problem if that deal don't pass. Because Ethiopia is able to fight. Ethiopians have been fighting over the last years. They've been fighting towards the history for a long time. And if they don't find a way...
They fought colonialism and refused to be colonized.
Refused to be colonized. They fought the British, they fought the Italian, they won in Adwa battle, 1898. Go and check on Wikipedia, it's great. They fight all those things and they won. So if we don't grant them access to the sea for the industry, for their own production, then what we say is that we send them to war. The next step is the war. We prefer an agreement between Somaliland and Ethiopia that already exists, by the way. Somaliland is already there. It's not Somalia, have zero control of Somaliland. The proof is that Abiy Ahmed can come there and sign the treaty. So that means there is no control. There's no policeman of Somalia that tell who can come in, who not come in. There's no passport. They even have their own passport. We should sort of ask who financed it? That's the right question. Anyway, Somaliland already have a lot of form of sovereignty, and they decide to make an alliance with Ethiopia. I say good for Ethiopia. I say good for the people of Ethiopia. So therefore good for the country.
But isn't that a recipe for conflict, comrade?
The recipe for conflict is to don't sign the agreement. My argument is quite simple. With the history of Ethiopia, with how colonialism entered Ethiopian history to try to diverge it. The only divergence it did to the Ethiopian empire is to surround it, to unlock it. And now we need to make sure, as Pan-Africans, that there is a peaceful solution that is implemented. Otherwise, it's going to be a war. And I prefer Somaliland to sign an agreement with Ethiopia than Somalia and Ethiopia going to work together again. Because the failure of the Somalian state in the 90s that provoked the invasion by the US troops, right, was originally a war between Ethiopia and Somalia for similar reasons, right? So we don't want to see war situation. We want peace. And I said, to have peace, give a harbor to Ethiopia. It's important. This country that is growing, that have more than 100 million people, is not a landlocked country. We need to make sure there's corridors, there's harbors, where the production of Ethiopia, where the craft of Ethiopia can reach the world without extra tax or extravagant fees to pay to a foreign country.
Okay. Comrade Kasha, do you have anything to submit there?
I think
He is in agreement with what is happening. Do you agree also?
not at all.
Because Somaliland is not a country yet
You see,
recognized. When you are doing an agreement with a non-existent state, I think you are also
I think
becoming another problem.
I think
Kashaya.
Ethiopia is not maintaining its legacy. It has a very good record and legacy in the face and hearts of Africans. By the way, many tribes in Africa
Emanate from Ethiopia.
emanate from
Emanate,
Ethiopia.
Even me, you could find they
Even
come from
me.
Ethiopia.
Come from even Somalia.
You said the Ashanti Kingdom.
Ashanti Kingdom from Ethiopia too.
So, but we don't want now that history to just wash away by.
To be diluted.
And they should not use that excuse, because you see what Africans are fighting for right now is unity. And whoever is against that
Now
unity,
Ethiopia is trying to support this unity.
because you see many small states that are claiming to
To secede
secede
from the
from- that's dangerous.
Mm.
That's very dangerous, because we are looking at Somaliland. Somaliland is not a recognized state, though they have their own issues with Somalia because of conflicts and so many issues. It is somehow a
Ethiopia
bit stable.
should be working towards uniting them,
It should actually,
not actually strengthening the conflict.
yes,
Because when you
fueling
make
the conflict.
when you make an agreement with the Somaliland, which is non-existent, you are strengthening him.
You know, like, you see, it's like now what we have been discussing in DRC. In Eastern Congo, the majority of the people who are staying there, they speak Rwandese.
Yes.
Hey,
Kagame, yes, Kinyarwanda. Kagame cannot have an agreement with some authority in Eastern Congo and say you hell with Kinshasa government.
you secede.
Yeah, then you will be fueling more conflict. I think what we are talking about as Africans, I think Ethiopia should look at a bigger picture. How do you solve the problem?
How do you unite
Because
the two conflicting brothers? These are brothers, comrades.
Instead
They are
of
brothers, I
becoming,
agree. Then
instead of becoming,
they should
The
look
Somalia
at
and
how they
Ethiopia
can
and
unite
Somalia,
the two
yes,
brothers
the
conflicting.
but you are
Than
the one
than
now.
strengthening one of them.
You are the one now fueling the.
But
the
if
conflict.
it's like this, explain to me, why is Eritrea charging $2 billion per year to Ethiopia right now so Ethiopia can use the harbor?
Those are the
That's
things.
not Pan-African neighbor.
Those are things that they can discuss. Because
Two wrongs can't make one
because
right,
you
comrade,
see-
in Africa.
Eritrea, you know, it's like Rwanda and Burundi.
Yes.
One time that was this almost the same country.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. My
They
argument is
speak the same
we are
language.
tired of colonial borders.
Yes.
Those borders, exactly the drawing of the borders are in London. They're in Roma. They're in Paris. That's exactly where you're going to know, oh, is it left or right from this stone or from this bridge? You will know it only from European maps drawn at that time, and today the powers are still defending it. We should stop defend colonial
but I
borders.
think
If
people are-
Ethiopia needs a harbor, because Ethiopia used to have a harbor, we find an alternative solution for Ethiopia to have a harbor with
Actually-
no war.
Actually,
There's no war.
I agree with you on the issue of borders, colonial borders,
Of course.
artificial borders.
It's artificial.
Actually, I want to thank President Ruto.
Yeah.
He made announcements.
That would you for the visa free.
All Africans now, so long as you are not a criminal,
Yes.
you can go to Kenya free
Yes.
of charge,
Yes.
and that's the way to go.
Yes. We're still
And
looking
Rwanda
for
also
the
did.
implementation of it.
The moment we promote that brotherhood
Yes.
Rwanda did the same.
of free movement,
Correct.
free visa,
Yes.
I'm
For
telling
Africans.
you, and we feel, we interact, we marry each other, we
We visit each other.
We visit each other, we do business, we come to know each other more. All these small conflicts will go.
All those borders are divisions of the people.
Yes.
They divide people. They divide the same people, as you say. Afar.
So
Afar in
Ethiopia-
Eritrea and Ethiopia.
So Ethiopia,
Somali in Ethiopia
my
and Somali.
appeal, Ethiopia should not interfere in the Somalis' affairs. And
If they must interfere, they must interfere
they
as
should
brothers,
interfere.
as a brother coming to join the two.
They should interfere by creating peace and harmony
Not to
among
divide.
the neighbors, but not seceding and creating small
The
divisions.
secession is already happening. It's not Ethiopia organizing it. It's Somalis that can't agree with each other.
We've got to go, comrades. On that note, I thank you so much, Comrade Safri, Thomas Mutatina from France, and Comrade James Kashaya for such an exciting and interesting debate this afternoon. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe, your speaker, and I say, Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
One Africa, one people. One people.
One Africa.
Thank you so much.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusa.